Last night at the Hog's Bog Tavern, an adventure party was telling some tales of their recent adventures. There was a gnome, a dwarf, an elf, a human, and a half orc. One of them was a barbarian, one of them was a cleric, one of them was a fighter, one of them was a rogue, and the remaining adventurer was a sorcerer, but not necessarily in that order. Their armor looked like they hadn't bought it new, if you know what I mean, but it fit them well enough, and it seemed serviceable. One of them was wearing padded armor, another had leather armor, a third had an animal hide, another of the party was wearing studded leather, and the remaining adventurer was outfitted in scale mail. As for their weapons, there was a dagger, a mace, a longsword, a battle axe, and a great axe, but it wasn't real obvious which adventurer used which weapon. Based on the clues given below, can you figure out which one of the adventurers wears the studded armor, and which one wields the dagger? Number 1. The adventurer that was wearing leather armor lost their previous weapon during a melee, and was grateful when the cleric gave them a spare dagger, which the cleric couldn't use anyway, since they already had a better weapon. And besides, Number 2. The cleric belongs to a religious order that prohibits their members from using any edged weapons. Number 3. Neither the human nor the barbarian wields the dagger. Number 4. As you might expect, the sorcerer wore padded armor, and the fighter, who incidentally is not the elf, wore scale mail. Number 5. The studded armor was too big for the elf, the wrong proportions for a dwarf, and not big enough for the half orc. The scale mail wasn't big enough for the half orc either. Number 6. The gnome wasn't of sufficient stature to wear the scale mail. Number 7. The barbarian is not the elf, and the elf does not use the dagger. Number 8. The barbarian got tired of breaking swords during melee, so he refuses to use them anymore. The dwarf, the cleric, and the wielder of the great axe were all content to let the gnome tell most of the stories, even when he lied about some of their exploits. Number 10. The battle axe, while not a masterwork weapon, has been in the dwarf's family for generations and is highly revered as a family heirloom. To use the worksheet, mark a cell with a dot if you find a positive correlation between one of the things along the left edge and one of the things across the top. For example, you could tell from clue number 1 that the adventurer wearing leather armor wields a dagger. Therefore, you place a dot in the cell that associates leather on the left with dagger across the top. Once you find a positive correlation, you can mark off 4 associated negative correlations along each axis. For example, if you have a dot in the cell for leather and dagger, you could place an X in each of the following cells: leather and mace, leather and battle axe, leather and longsword, leather and great axe, padded and dagger, hide and dagger, studded and dagger, and finally scale mail and dagger. If you can establish 4 negative correlations in a group along one axis, you have proven the 5th cell in that group is a positive correlation. As above, if you mark a positive correlation with a dot in the cell, mark the negative correlations along the other axis with an X.